A true monarch of Great Britain, a woman who dedicated her life to serve the country, the Commonwealth, Queen Elizabeth II, from 1926 to 2022. Our thoughts are with the royal family, loved ones, and the nation. Thank you to Her Royal Majesty, the Queen, Queen Elizabeth. Welcome to the F1Stop show. I'm your host, Sam Oney. This is episode 26. With me tonight is Wes Spitman. Wes, how are you this evening?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, obviously had that sad news, yes, a while ago now, but we're recording this on the day of her funeral. So yeah, as you said, just an incredible person, and yeah, she's left quite some legacy behind. Um, yeah, as a nation, yeah, we're all in mourning. So um, yeah, a huge loss to, as you say, not just the nation, but the Commonwealth as well. And yeah, she'll be missed.
Indeed, 70 years, very long time. So a lot has happened in Formula One over the last couple of weeks. Let's start with the most recent Grand Prix, being the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, which Red Bull's Max Verstappen picked up yet another win. And you may as well just hand him the F1 championship. Am I right?
Pretty much, I think. Yeah, I think either this weekend, next week. I think it's next weekend actually. When they go racing again in Singapore, because we had this sort of 2 week break between Grand Prix off the back of the triple header.
30th of
Yeah, I think the
September,
next.
I believe it is.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, not this Sunday as the week of we're recording this. Yeah, a week after. I think Verstappen can mathematically win the championship. I imagine it would require Leclerc to finish outside the point. So I'm not sure if Verstappen will actually win the championship at Singapore. It'll probably take at least a couple more races. Um, but yeah, pretty solid drive yet again. Started in, I think it was P7 he started. I mean, about half the grid took had some sort of penalty applied to them. This week. I've got the list of them up on the Wikipedia page of the Italian Grand Prix, and there's 9 notes underneath the qualifying sort of section, which just goes to show. I mean, just under half the grid took some sort of penalty. Um, I'll quickly run through them. So, Verstappen received a 5 place grid penalty for exceeding his quota of power unit elements. Sainz to start the race from the back of the grid for the same reason. Also received a 10 place grid penalty for a new gearbox. Perez received 10 place grid penalty for, again, power unit elements. Hamilton, same sort of thing, exceeding quota of power unit elements, but required to start at the back of the grid. Ocon, 5 place grid penalty for power units. Bottas, 15 place penalty for power units. Sonoda, 10 place penalty for quota of reprimand limits at the previous round, and a 3 place grid penalty for failing to slow under yellow flags during the second practice session. And then he was then also required to start from the back of the grid for exceeding his quota of power unit elements. So like, there's a bit of a triple whammy there for Sonoda.
Yeah.
And then the last the last two, the Haas's, Magnussen, a 15 place grid penalty for power unit elements, and Schumacher, a 5 place grid penalty, plus a 10 place gearbox penalty. So yeah, it was interesting to see how the FIA sort of worked that out. But I'll just run down qualifying and the starting grid. So qualifying was the top 10. Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, Perez, Hamilton, Russell, Norris, Ricciardo, Gasly, Alonso as the top 10. Then you had Ocon, Bottas, Nick de Vries on his F1 debut, stepping in for Albon, I believe, was suffering from appendicitis that weekend. Guan Yu Zhou, Tsunoda, Latifi, Vettel, Stroll, Magnussen, and Schumacher rounding out the last couple of places. There wasn't any change for Leclerc. He stayed on pole. George Russell moved up 4 places into second. Well, the next few drivers actually moved up 4 places. So Norris, Ricciardo, Gasly, and Alonso all moved up 4 places. Verstappen had his 5-place grid penalty, dropped him from second down to seventh. De Vries and Guan Yu Zhou moved up 5 places. Nicholas Latifi, Vettel, and Stroll all moved up 6 places. Perez lost out on 10 places. Ocon and Bottas dropped 3 places. Magnussen and Schumacher gained 3 places. Sainz was the big loser out of all of them. He lost 15 places. Hamilton
Wow.
lost 14 places, had to start in 19th, and then Tsunoda rounding off the back of the grid, starting in 5th. So, I mean, fair play to the FIA for working that out as best they can. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in there just like, right, we've got 9 drivers taking some sort of penalty. We've got like 2, 3 drivers starting at the back of the grid. We've
Yeah.
got 1 driver taking a 15-place penalty who's
So,
qualified in 19th, 20th. It's, yeah, I think that I don't really understand how they came to those places, but yeah, I'm sure there's some reason somewhere. Um, but yeah, getting back to the race, I think Verstappen was up to P4 by the end of the first lap or something.
yeah.
And took the lead, yeah, fairly soon on after that. Um, there were a couple of engine issues, which is it surprising being Monza? I think we had Alonso with power unit issues. Vettel
Sebastian
retired
Vettel.
due to due to smoke going out of his engine as well. Ricardo was having a decent race. He was running inside the points until I think again a power unit issue.
Yeah.
The curse of Monza strikes again, where the previous year's race winner has failed to finish the year after.
Yeah.
So Leclerc won in 2019, DNF in 2020,
Gasly.
Gasly won in 2020, DNF in 2021, and Ricardo obviously won last year and DNF this year. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see who wins. Oh, Verstappen won this year, so probably get a DNF next year. I wouldn't think so, but yeah, you never know, especially what's been happening at Monza in the last few years with crazy race winners. But yeah, pretty solid drive from Verstappen. I can't actually remember the finish. I've been so focused on the grid that I forgot to note down where drivers actually finished. I know the podium was Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell. I mean, good to see Russell on the podium again. I
Yeah.
think it's Verstappen's 5th race win in a row. And yeah, I think as you said earlier, he can mathematically wrap up the championship at the next Grand Prix.
In Singapore. Um, Something I want to touch up on is well, Nick De Vries. As you know, he stood in for Alex Albon in the Williams car that weekend. Um, as you know, De Vries normally races in Formula E. He was a Formula E champion, I believe, last year in season 8. It
I
was.
think so, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
one with Mercedes.
Mercedes EQ team. Yeah. So I mean that that big jump from Formula E to Formula One. That's I mean, what kind of emotions do you think he went through? Because if I were him, I would have been very very excited, nervous, but excited. I'm driving in Formula One, the pinnacle of motorsport.
I think you're always nervous when you start off doing something different. I mean, whether it be like for us our first steps after after university, for example.
Yeah,
But yeah, obviously De Vries. I think he was whether he was Mercedes reserve driver or previously Williams reserve driver. Yeah, as you mentioned, Formula E champion last year before, can't quite remember. Um, yeah, I mean the difference in cars is would be quite something because obviously Formula E electric, a lot slower, probably a lot heavier as well,
yeah,
um, and a lot smaller than F1 cars as well. Then yeah, you're going into the Williams. Yeah, it's not the fastest car on the grid, but you still got a turbo hybrid V6 right right behind you. The cars are a lot bigger, but although probably a lot lighter as well because they haven't got all the batteries and stuff. Um, and I don't know if Formula E cars are rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, actually, to come to think of it. I was going to say, obviously, F1 cars just rear-wheel drive. Um, yeah, for him to get that comfortable in the car and out qualify Latifi and score points on his F1 debut when going into the weekend he probably wouldn't have thought at all about racing in this race or indeed this season. So yeah, for him to score, was it P9, P10 he finished? Yeah, only a
P9.
point or two, but yeah, to get a couple of points on debut is quite something, especially in a Williams as well.
Yeah,
Um, it puts a lot of pressure on Latifi, um, given he's been around the team for 3 years now, 3, 4 years. Yeah, to be outperformed by quite some distance as well by this rookie who's come into F1 as a last minute change because your teammate's got appendicitis. Um, yeah, it shows sort of what F1 has been missing a little bit by having pay drivers to some extent, the likes of Stroll and Williams previously, obviously Latifi at the moment, Sirotkin, who raced for just a season before he was binned. Um, yeah, I think that goes to show that Nick De Vries should be on the F1 grid next year, if not in place of Latifi, then in place of someone else, because to put in a performance like that, last resort sort of driver, a last minute change up, is something special. He's a seriously talented driver. He's shown that already in Formula E, and he's shown that now in Formula One as well.
indeed. I mean, credit to Nick De Vries. It took him one race to get points for Williams. I read online on Twitter that, with Williams drivers how many races it took them to get their first points. As mentioned, Nick De Vries one race, Alex Albon 4 races, I believe. George Russell, I believe it was 11, something like that, and then Nicholas
It was a few more
Latifi.
than that.
More than that?
I think actually, I think Latifi scored points in fewer races than Russell, but Russell had an extra season with the team.
Mm,
Um,
my
yeah,
mistake. My bad.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, as you say, to score points on F1 debut in a Williams is something pretty special.
Yeah. Um, but then that was the bottom of the grid. But if we go back to the top of the grid, where you know Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, that was the whole thing for the season. You know, what are we now? 16 races, 16, 17 races in now.
Something like that, yeah. We're quite a way into the season now. Where's the schedule? Yeah. We've just had round 16. So yeah, Singapore will be round 17.
Okay, 16 races
So
in.
six races to go.
Yeah, we all thought Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, this is going to be a season to remember. But well, Verstappen's pretty much just taken the season by storm. Minus his two DNFs in what the first 2, 3 races, it's literally been Verstappen all the way.
Yeah,
So
pretty much. And I think this weekend actually Ferrari didn't make any mistakes. I think they were just
mm,
outpaced by Red Bull. You could argue they made a mistake pitting Leclerc early. Around, was it lap 12, 13 when they put him
it
onto
was
hards?
it was a risky one. They did
It
ask
was
him.
risky.
They did ask him, "Oh, Leclerc, do we want to pit here?" He was like, "Okay, but it will be risky." I heard that when I was listening to it on the radio, and it was a risky move.
Yeah, they had to pit him later on. I think they put him onto mediums or softs. I can't remember now. Not that it really mattered in the end. I think he still came out in second. I still think that Verstappen would have won the race if Leclerc didn't pit early. Um, it was obviously going into the end of the race when Ricardo's engine went kaput. Um, it didn't really matter because it was a bit of an anticlimax to the race because I think pretty much the whole grid pitted in those last few laps for under safety car, for new sets of soft tires, scrub sets, whatever. Um, Hoping to get a lap or two of green flag racing again, but it wasn't to be, unfortunately. Um, yeah, I suppose it raises a bit of a debate as to whether it was right for the race to end under safety car or oh well, what do you think? I mean, was it right? And is it right? I suppose is the question.
I mean, right. The essence of a safety car, to my knowledge, is to, other than to give time for like, any collisions or debris to get off the field, I think the whole reason for it is to just, um, get everyone back into track position and like just well, just set the track into motion and hope to resume back to racing standard. But I think personally to finish with a safety car, I don't think it's right because it doesn't only take out the sting of the race finale, but it kind of reduces drivers' chances of, gaining a position or two. It could be the difference between finishing seventh, if you like, and finishing fifth, if you get what I mean. So, like, you know, whoever's in seventh could have had the opportunity to finish fifth. So, and like with having the safety car, it kind of, restricts those chances.
Yeah, I see what you mean, and I don't think anyone really likes it when a race ends under safety car because it's almost a feeling of it should go on for longer because
Yeah,
I mean under safety car there's no actual racing taking place because you've all got to be you I mean there's no overtaking allowed. Because obviously as you said it's a safety car for a reason. It's to ensure that debris and cars drivers can be sort of collected and handled in a safe manner.
speed
Um,
has to be reduced to a certain miles per hour. I
yeah,
don't know how much, but quite a lot.
yeah, it is disappointing. But I suppose at the end of the day, there are a set number of laps in a Grand Prix. I think it was 53 at Monza, and yeah, the stewards, the FIA, whoever in charge, decided that they couldn't get the track cleaned up quickly enough for them to have even a lap of green flag racing. And I mean, coming from a cricket background, I've seen instances of test matches, 5-day matches, going to the last over where one side needs to take one wicket or the other side needs to score 5-6 runs to win the game, but they can't do it. And you just think, oh, if there was another over, if there was 5 more minutes, then there would be someone would win, someone would lose. But it's like a bit like that in F1 where there's a certain amount of time, there's a set amount of time, and you can't
Mm,
go past that time.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I suppose if there is a safety car towards the end of the race and stewards think that there won't be any more green flag racing, then could they call it a red flag and reduce the number of laps in the race by one and just have, even if it's a lap of green flag racing, like we saw at Baku earlier this season, or no, last year, where Hamilton shot off down the escape road when it was literally like a sprint, a 1 lap sprint to the end. Even if they did that, even if they made it a rule that if the safety car can't come in within the amount of laps left in the race should be red flagged and have 1 lap, 2 laps, however many remaining of green flag racing, however long it takes for the race to be suspended, it doesn't really matter because you're going to have 1 lap, 2 laps of proper racing and allows everyone to be on the same set of tires. It allows cars to be repaired, everything to be done. So, I mean, I think pretty much everyone was. I don't think everyone. I think a couple of the drivers were a bit disappointed by it. I think Leclerc and Norris were a bit disappointed. I think Toto Wolff said that yes, that's what should have happened last year at Abu Dhabi, and I suppose realistically, yeah, that's what should have happened at Abu Dhabi. But obviously, different race directors this year, different interpretation of the rules, a more correct interpretation of the rules, I suppose. Um, yeah, it certainly raises more clouds above Verstappen's win last year. If there weren't enough clouds already around it, but yeah, I think if there was a way for them to red flag the race and have a lap or two of green flag racing, I'm all for that. I think.
now we've we've just over 4 minutes to go. Let's finish off with this then. Oscar Piastri, as confirmed, will be racing at McLaren next season in 2023. What does this mean for him, McLaren, and especially Daniel Ricciardo? Because earlier in the season, it was confirmed that McLaren will be parting ways with Daniel Ricciardo and he'll no longer be racing for the Woking-based team next year. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
it's a bit of a sad outcome for Ricardo, but I think we could all see it coming. His performances with the team just haven't been that great, and certainly not on the same level as Lando Norris, at least in terms of consistency. Um, I mean, he remains the last driver in McLaren to win a Grand Prix last year at Monza. But besides that, there haven't been too many high points for Ricardo's career at McLaren. Yeah, he's jumping ship, 1 year left of his contract by mutual agreement, I think. Yeah, I think McLaren are bringing in a very, very talented driver in the likes of Oscar Piastri, 2020 F3 champion, 2021 F2 champion,
Yeah.
Alpine reserve driver. He was also reserve driver for McLaren. I think the two teams came to some sort of agreement around that. Yeah, I just hope Ricardo remains in F1. I hope he finds a seat somewhere, whether it's at Toro Rosso, not Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri,
Okay.
previously raced with Toro Rosso, Alpine, Haas, wherever. Daniel Ricciardo deserves a seat in F1. He's too talented to not be on the grid for next year, I reckon.
I mean, I agree with everything that you said. We all saw that Ricciardo's performances weren't as expected. There were little flashes of good performances, if you like. Um, and then there's a new kid on the block, Oscar Piastri, like you said, F2 champion in 2021, and well, McLaren have picked up quite a huge prospect in the Australian. So it remains to be seen. I think uh, Piastri and Norris, that's a very exciting partnership for next year. So
Yeah, two hugely talented young drivers.
indeed,
Should hopefully make for a good team.
right on. So that brings us to the end of another episode of the F1Stop show. Um, the Singapore Grand Prix, the 30th of September to October the 2nd. So just like a couple weeks, 2 weeks, if you like.
Yeah, not this coming Sunday, but yeah, next Sunday. Is it next Sunday? Are we to the end of September already? Blimey.
Oh, really?
September's flown by. That's ridiculous.
Goodness me. Wow. We're really getting into the end. Oh, goodness. Anyway, Singapore's coming up. Singapore's exciting. First night, no, yeah, no, second night race of the season.
Third.
Third.
We got Bahrain and Jeddah.
All right then. Third
Forgot about
night
Jeddah.
race of the season. All right then. I've been your host, Sam Oni, and it's a goodbye from me. Bye-bye. And it's a goodbye from Wes.
Bye-bye.
And we hope you enjoy the week ahead and see you next time.